What up, dudes? Episode 2 of the Quarantine Chronicles. Once again, there's no news. There's been no news for like 3 weeks now. So, I'm bringing back my regulars once again to discuss a few topics, a couple gimmicks that I'm going to try out for this show. So, we'll see how they go. We started recording this earlier, and the recording fucked up. So we're just whatever. Just fucking introduce yourselves.
Hey, Dan here. Glad to be back for another episode.
I'm glad to be back too. This is Jonah, and I'm ready to learn on this fine episode of Podcast Paradise.
Unsoothing our brains.
Give me some phones.
All right. Well, first up, we've been in quarantine for a month now, and we've been stuck with the same people for a month. So we all have some dirty laundry to air out, some gripes about being stuck with our families for a month. So I'm gonna go first. Whatever. I can be a little ornery at times, so
yeah.
I've got three solid ones. For starters, I just feel like it's a rule. Like once you turn 40, you have to sign a contract that says, I will, whenever I am watching any video on my phone, I will play it from the speakers at full volume at all times.
Yeah, my mom does that. She does that with her Facebook memes.
I feel like
you had before our recording fucked up, Dan. You had a good story about the dog video. You should definitely tell that one to the people again.
All right, so in my house, the kitchen and my room are opposite sides. So I'll be laying there in my room, and all of a sudden, with my door closed, I'll hear like a high-pitched voice, which turns out to be a voiceover of a puppy complaining about how many walks it's been getting during the quarantine. So I'll just be sitting there, I don't know, like playing a video game or something, and I'll just hear, "Oh, why do you have to take me for so many walks? My legs hurt. I just want to lay down and eat a bone." And I just have to be like, "Can you turn that down, please?" And of course, nothing happens.
You know what the worst part is? Is they act like defensive when you ask them to turn it down.
Yeah, it's because the shoe's finally on the other foot.
I tell her to turn it down, and I get no response.
I teased this one on my Twitter a couple weeks ago, because I was at that moment I didn't know I was gonna be doing a whole podcast segment on it, but I was like, oh my god, this is driving me absolutely fucking insane, hearing like the fucking like royalty-free techno music that blast on these camera tutorials. So Dan, do you want to go next?
Yeah, alright, so my gripe is kind of more of like a personal my house thing. So my dad has worked in sanitation for many years, so he's been known to be sort of a clean freak. And combine that with constant hand washing and the coronavirus, you get some interesting interactions. So I did not know this, but he doesn't like it when you wash your hands in the kitchen sink. So, every day I get lazy. I want to eat food. I'm in the kitchen. I'm going to wash my hands in the kitchen. I don't want to have to go to a different room to wash my hands and come back. So I'm washing my hands in my kitchen, and my dad's like, "Daniel, I told you not to do that." And he grabs the sponge and moves it all the way to the other end of the counter. He's like, "I don't want you getting the sponge wet."
Oh no, the sponge. It's going to get wet.
I don't know if it's
that's
just
what
the
it's made to
pointlessness
do.
of this, or it's just absurd, and it's just been getting to me. And I just think it's ridiculous. But yeah, that's my little gripe. Or at least one of them.
it kind of feels like, what's the point of having a sink in the kitchen if you can't use it?
Yeah, we're already washing gross shit in there. Like, I think like a couple weeks ago we cooked something and burned like the shit out of a pan. We scraped all of that all over the sink. That's fine, but not me washing my hands. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's like that doesn't really seem like it really matters all that much. Like, it doesn't seem like, oh, what's the cross contamination gonna be? Your hands to your food? Like, you're still
Like,
washing them.
let's say a couple of very small drops make it onto the sponge, if any.
What does that
sponge
matter?
is going on dirty dishes that are gonna go into the dishwasher anyways. So like, which
Yeah,
by the way, sometimes the dog licks our dishes in the dishwasher, and nobody says anything about that. I don't
Unless
understand.
Dawn is giving them another like rub down after he takes them out of the dishwasher, I don't think it really matters all that much.
That's one good thing that's come out actually about Buddy licking the dishwashers, that we call it the Buddy buffet. Sometimes he'll lick like marinara sauce or something from the plates.
Oh, good for him.
So, Buddy's your brother, right?
No, Buddy's my dog.
Oh, okay. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I never told you, Max. I forgot.
All right, Jonah. You said you had one.
Well, my one was also sort of your first one, Max, but
Oh, really?
yeah, but also I thought of another one, which is like very particular to my house as well.
Okay.
I don't really blame her that much for this because like it's different, but my sister is just so used to living on her own that she's not like very considerate of the people around her when it comes to noise. Like, she's been having a lot of trouble sleeping recently, and like she's been up until like 4 or 5 a.m. and she sings until like 2 in the morning.
What?
Yeah.
What is she singing?
I mean, just like anything. Mostly show tunes. I mean, she just walked by, so she probably just heard me, but whatever. But
Hi, Sadie.
but it's just like, dude, I'm trying to sleep. And then I told her that, and she was like, no, because one time I went to the bathroom at 2 in the morning and you were asleep. And it's like, yeah, the miracle of sleep finally fell over me after listening to you sing like the Firebringer soundtrack for however long. Like, sorry, I was able to sleep. That invalidates my point. You're right.
That is kind of that's a unique thing to do. Late at night on your own.
Yeah, dick move though.
Yeah. But sort of talking about what you were talking about in the beginning, Max, I think it's really funny because my parents are now at a point where they're like worse than me with like TV and phone. Like, my dad will always be like on Facebook watching memes while also watching an action movie on TV. And like both will be completely like at a speaker volume. And like, I just remember him telling me when I was 12 when I would watch like a YouTube video while playing Minecraft that was gonna like rot my brain, and that like I had to leave the door open, so they were making sure I was only doing one thing at a time, otherwise I'd get ADHD. Like, I guess you're not following your own advice, huh?
Yeah, it's funny how I feel like the tide has been turned in the last like 5 years. Cause like I don't text and drive, but if my mom ever caught me texting and driving, she might shoot me, honestly. But she has no problems texting and driving. And if I say something to her, she's just like, oh well, I'm an adult. Like that, it's irrelevant.
Like, it's kind of funny because whenever like this is probably like weird on my part, but I really like eating on my own. Like, I don't like eating with other people that much.
No, I do.
So like, whenever I eat dinner, I go out into the back room and I watch TV like on my phone or something, and I just like chill with the dog. But like, when I first started doing that, my parents were like, why don't you want to like eat with us? Why don't you want to talk? Like, why don't you want to do anything? And then like now they're just like, yeah, we're gonna watch Boardwalk Empire. Like, you can do your thing. It's like, okay, now you're finally getting what I was seeing this whole time. Now we're on the same page.
There's a reason why dinner shows exist. Entertainment and eating is like the best combination.
Well, it's just like for me mostly it's just I am like I think I've talked about this not on here, but I am thoroughly angered by the sound of people chewing. And like if I'm eating with someone and there's no music and I can hear them chewing, I just get irrationally pissed off and I have to leave or like distract myself. So family dinners used to be really annoying for me. Thank God like they started putting on music so I can chill, but that's mostly why I would just like go and do my own thing. It's a weird thing, but
All right. Well, so my second gripe that I have is, my mother has a tendency to, as the expression goes, cry over spilled milk. A lot.
I'm assuming an example.
Yeah, I can't. There are times where I'm in my room, and by the sound she makes from downstairs, you would think that she just stumbled across a dead body. So then I come downstairs. Still, I haven't learned, I guess, after, I don't know, 20 years, but I come downstairs thinking that maybe, just maybe, this time it's going to be something serious. No, it's like I can't find the remote. It's unbelievable. And it's like every little inconvenience requires like a, oh my God, God damn it. Yeah. I don't know, that might be unique to my household, but
Well, I think
mine's pretty
what I
similar,
described-
but
this is similar,
you
yeah.
can go, Dan.
I think what I described with like the whole washing hands thing kind of relates to that, like overreacting. And like going outside and tying the dog up in the front yard and he gets in my dad's way, he'll like freak out. Like I feel like that it's just because people are locked up.
I think like my version of that is like my mom will always like talk to the dogs as if they're rushing her to do something. Like in the morning, like she'll just be like, "Okay, I'm getting to it. I'm like I'll put you out." And like she sounds like someone's like holding a gun to her head, but in reality the dog's just like sitting there like maybe barking every once in a while or like whining quietly.
Notice.
Yeah, like it's nothing major, but she's like, I'll do it. Okay. Like you can take your time with it. Like they're not in a rush.
all right, Dan, do you have something?
All right, so I have like a second kind of small gripe. So ever since this quarantine has been happening, my sleep schedule has slowly been altered where I'm sleeping in longer and longer.
To like
And
when?
as a result, the dog has seen an opportunity to sleep in my bed with me. And that's fine. But I have my door shut, so every morning like clockwork at 7:30, I hear like scratching. I have to open the door and let him in. It's just like it's such a little inconvenience, you know? Like I just want to sleep.
Yeah.
I hate being waken up by this animal, you know?
I've spent most of my time with my dogs conditioning them to not come into my room. So
I need
I'm
to do
chilling.
that because they take like socks and stuff.
No, yeah, I tell Roscoe every time he's in my room, I get him out, and then I only let him in here if I feel like it or if he's like afraid of thunder.
Oh yeah, I'll let him in.
But then because of that, like since he always wants to be in my room, ever since I left for school, my parents have been letting him in, and then now he's sort of conditioned to think like,
Now
oh,
it's his room.
I am allowed to go in here, and now I have to be like set my territory again. I gotta pee on the walls and shit.
By your dominance.
Yeah, exactly.
Jonah, do you have a second one or?
No, I think I can't really think of anything specifics. It's more just like I relate to all of these.
All right. Well, my third and final one, as I as I previously stated, I can be a little mercurial at times. But I don't know what it is, but I think this is kind of unique to my family, but they just have a tendency to, like, when I'm very obviously not in the mood to talk, they ask me, like, the most random questions that you could ever think of. Like, it could already be established that they, like, ask me something and I kind of, like, don't really respond because I don't really feel like responding. And then the next thing I hear, hey, so you ever hear about this game called Left 4 Dead? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, it's like, I heard like this game that people play, like Left 4 Dead, and it's like, oh my god, that was like 15 years ago. Like, how are you finding out about this game?
Yeah, it's like, why are you even thinking about that right now? Like, who brought that into your mind?
Yeah,
I saw it on CNN.
Yeah, that is something I frequently have to deal with. Again,
Yeah.
that might be unique to me, but
No, it's not. Sometimes when I'm not in the mood to talk, my parents will try to spur a random conversation. But I try to drop hints of, like, I just want to go into my room and listen to music.
Yeah, like, this is something that, like, I've talked about extensively with people, but I feel like people just think they have to talk way too much. Like, just let me sit in the room silently, like 6 feet away from you. That's enough for me, dude. If I want to say something, I'll say something. Don't say anything unless, like, don't talk to me about Left 4 Dead. Like,
I don't have an input to give.
don't ask me if, like, I know what TikTok is.
Do you do that TikTok?
When I told my parents I was doing this, they were just like, where are you putting that on? I was like, YouTube. And they were like, but it's sound. And I'm like, yeah, you just put it on YouTube. And they're like, but it's not a video. How does that work? It's like, gee, you make it one.
Well, pretty soon there'll be VR fishing gameplay.
Yeah, if things go correctly and I can record everything, there should be VR fishing gameplay next time.
You will witness the Stafford Pond King.
Yeah, but this time we'll be in Korea.
Dan, do you have a third one, or was that basically it?
That was basically it. I was gonna say the sound one, but that was the first one we did.
I like that we all unanimously picked up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is like a most households thing.
Well,
yeah,
I think I have a little bit of another factor, which is like my dad, for the life of him, cannot figure out how to operate his Bluetooth headphones. Like, anytime he's tried to use it, it takes him like 5 or 6 minutes just to get them like on and on his head and like ready to like connect.
But all you have to do is turn it on.
Yeah.
Once it's synced.
Yeah. I don't shoot the messenger, man.
Even my dad can do that, and he doesn't use technology like at all.
I just remember the other day walking downstairs and seeing him fumbling with them, and just like, it explains everything.
All right. So moving on to the we're kind of done with that, right? That was wrapped up.
Yeah.
All right. So the other day I was watching a video where Wings of Redemption was giving advice to his former podcast on stream, and it was being reacted to by one of the current hosts of said podcast, and the topic of Boogie2988 came up in the video. I'm sure we all know who Boogie2988 is.
And if you don't, look up Boogie, one for me and one for my hooker. That'll give you a good idea of what he's all about.
Well, he's kind of been getting like I guess, critically panned lately, we could say. He went
That's
from a
an
guy
understatement, I think.
he went from a guy with a very high approval rating about 6 years ago to a guy with horrible approval rating.
Honestly, one of the best. Like he was probably the nicest, regarded as one of the nicest people on the internet six
I
years
don't
That
ago.
think
was
he
his
was. Yeah, I don't think he was super like. I don't want to say respected, but he was like in his opinions. But people definitely liked him for who he was. I think.
His
so
opinions were far from controversial at the
so
beginning.
his whole shtick was, and this was brought up on that video, where his whole shtick back when he was popular was that he was the nicest guy on YouTube. That was kind of his thing. And the way that it was explained in this video, the way that it was described was people really hate him because they saw his, nicest guy on the internet personality, and then they found out that that wasn't really what he was like. So then they're all accusing him of, oh my god, that wasn't the real you. That was fake Boogie. And now they're really, that's not the only reason why they're upset, but that's one of, and probably the core thing that changed his personality or changed his perception amongst YouTube. But that got me thinking, why are people, did that just like rape your ears?
No, that was
No.
fine.
Oh, okay, good, because my phone just vibrated on a piece of metal.
Oh, I
Anyway,
did not hear it.
Yeah,
wow, that's good.
silent.
um, so it got me thinking, why do people give so much higher of a moral standard to YouTubers than people on TV? Like, nobody would ever. So here's an example: is FPS Russia, right?
Hmm.
People were. I feel like there were a lot of people who were not happy when they found out that FPS Russia was not really Russian. Like it's a persona, dude. Like, how could you not figure that out? You know what
But
I
that
mean?
one
Yeah.
was so obvious.
On
If you-
Dude,
TV,
when I was
though,
when I
it's
was like
like
in elementary school, I did not know. I was stupid.
in TV though, people like when people find out that Steve Harvey is different in his like private life than he is on Family Feud, they don't say that he's being fake on Family Feud. They say, well, yeah, he's an entertainer. He's providing a product. For whatever reason on YouTube, people get upset when you're not like the real you. And I don't know why that is.
So what I think is that there tends to be this sort of TV persona. Like where on TV you're expected to be someone else that's more catered to viewing. Well, on YouTube, I think it's expected to be real and down to earth because it's a more casual medium. You know what I mean? So I feel like we built this expectation of they should all be like not necessarily home videos, but it should be like more real, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of because TV like has built such a reputation of a platform where people are like sort of like you said entertainers and characters, but on the internet like unless you explicitly say like hey, I'm just being a character right now, like people just jump to the assumption that you're being yourself because it has that more personal aspect to it. Like there's a lot of like especially with Boogie, especially like how he's not who he says that he is on YouTube. Like since that's the only representation of him that you see, and you see that representation so often, like I feel like more than you might see like a TV personality, you see that so often, and it comes across as genuine because most of the time these videos are being filmed in their home with like lower budgets, so you're assuming okay, this person's just going to be themselves. And then when you get that like sort of you realize it's dishonest, it hits a lot harder.
Well, because the thing that made me like, because people on it. Maybe it's just that people aren't like that. TV audiences aren't as smart because, like, when it's kind of revealed that like Oprah isn't actually very nice behind the scenes, it like doesn't stop people from watching. Like, maybe they're just more gullible.
I think maybe like people, when you watch something on TV, you can like watch something without really being a fan of it, but when you watch something on YouTube, usually you watch it for the personality and for that person. Whereas like if you watch Oprah, you might just watch it because it's on, you know? But like you choose to tune into that person, you choose them because of their personality. So I think finding out that's fake might hit harder than, oh, the 4 o'clock slot on Channel 10 is a little fake. Who gives a shit?
But also, it's like with Boogie in particular, it's like, yeah, like, of course he's not ridiculously happy all the time in his personal life. B, why would, like, what is he gonna do, like, in the middle of his, like, I don't know, VR camping playthrough? Is he just gonna be like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm about to get a divorce with my wife, and like, yeah, I really fucking hate that bitch. Like, what is he supposed to do? Like, I feel like some of this is totally unfair.
I mean, I think like you really can only do one thing without upsetting people. Like if you are a persona, you can only be that persona. If you're yourself, you can only be yourself. Otherwise, when people see that like code switching and changing of personalities, it really puts people off.
With more regard, I guess it's more specific to Boogie. After he was sort of exposed and he started getting this hate, I really didn't like how he immediately sort of flipped himself onto his back and played the victim.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have a problem with him having a different personality than he portrayed. I have a problem with him like going on and saying that this is ruining his life and that this is what's wrong with everything.
Well, I
Like,
think
dude,
I think the main issue with Boogie was how extreme his personalities were. Like he went from like the total nice guy to literally saying that rapists and Nazis were more redeemable than his trolls. Like that's a quote from him. Like the absolute like gymnastics that this big man went through to change personalities like that was insane.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely true that he changed a lot. That's for sure. And maybe it was just because like it did seem kind of real, the persona that he brought to the cameras at first.
Yeah, I think it
yeah,
did because he portrayed it so thoroughly. And like that was how he was on his Twitter and everything else. Like on every single platform, there was no speck of seeing who he really was, so you just assumed he was this person the whole time.
you know what? I think he should just revert back to his Francis character and just be Francis.
Dude, Francis
Everyone
would not
likes
survive
Francis.
right now. No one likes Francis
Everyone.
right now. Do you really think Francis screaming and jiggling about Mountain Dew could survive today?
The first
Like that's when
the
Fred
first
used to be
Boogie
popular.
video that I saw was him, yeah, screaming about Mountain Dew and complaining about how he doesn't like Fanta, and I thought that was funny shit.
But
Yeah,
would you think
no.
it's funny shit right now?
But comparing
Well,
him to Fred, no way. Those videos were way better than Fred.
Well, yeah, no
and
shit, they were
annoying
better than Fred,
orange
but
and
I'm
all
saying
that.
Fred was like the precedent of like bottom of the barrel good at the time.
I thought annoying orange was worse than Fred.
I thought Fred was way
I'd say
worse.
Fred was worse because Annoying Orange actually had like some production value, but Fred was just.
That's true. That is a good point.
It was the annoying, like, chipmunk voice.
And how he would just
And
run
that was
around and
it.
scream.
That was the whole channel.
The only good
And
parts is
now
when he
it's owned
talked
by
about how
Sony.
abusive his mom was.
Fred sold his YouTube channel, or I guess his name is Lucas. He sold his YouTube channel, and now it's like a dead channel with kids' videos on it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really weird, actually.
I don't
I
think
think
they
he
upload
does.
anymore.
I think Fred did like Instagram comedy for a little bit.
Oh, I would believe it. There are a lot of YouTubers who went over to Vine and Instagram.
I think he did Vine and Instagram.
Dude, Instagram comedy is one of the worst things conjured up in the human realm. Like, that shit is so obscenely awful.
Well, you just have to look in the right places, Jonah.
Well, that's not Instagram comedy. That's just actual comedy. I'm saying, like, comedy made for Instagram. That's the bad shit. Like,
The
what, like King
corporate
Bach and Lele
curated
Pons.
crap.
King Bach is the worst. He's just like worse Kevin Hart, but on the internet.
That's bad when you're
Um,
worse, Kevin Hart.
you know what's weird is the other day, you know who makes Instagram comedy now is Ray William Johnson.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long has
I
he
was
been
Didn't
doing
know
that?
I was totally surprised to see him in my feed. I was like, what? It was like a random skit, and I was like, this guy looks so familiar. Oh shit, that's Ray William Johnson.
Because for a while he tried to be like a regular actor. I'm pretty sure, like a show actor. And I know that didn't go anywhere because it's
I can
Ray William
imagine.
Johnson.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
still don't really understand how his show got so popular.
It really, the
it was
bar
the
for what was
first.
good back then was so low.
Yeah, it was early.
But even in the moment, I remember being like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not good.
Yeah, I didn't like his stuff either.
See, I watched it in that time, but like looking back on it, I don't know why because I didn't laugh. So, but I still watched it every single time it came out. I don't know why. I was just
I didn't
like,
like the way he talked.
no, he like I don't even remember any aspects about it that I liked, but I just remember watching it. Do you
Is he
guys
successful
that equals
on
three, yeah.
Vimeo?
Do you guys remember your favorite Martian?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Ray William Johnson's music career?
Yep.
That was that was honestly such an interesting time in internet history, like thinking back on it.
And that was also like, I feel like that was the peak of like, if you were popular on YouTube, you could just make a second channel and instantly become huge.
Yeah.
Like that channel, it was literally I think it was the fastest growing channel ever for a while.
I wouldn't be surprised because like he would advertise it a lot at the end of equals three.
Yeah.
And it's like
You
the same
know,
demographic of absolute dumbassery.
I kind of I kind of miss the era of YouTube where it was like you didn't know who was going to be on top. Like, because ever since
Ray William was on
PewDiePie
top
claimed
for
the
a
top,
long
Yeah, it
time.
was Ray
ever
and then
since,
Smosh, and that was pretty much it.
but
Smosh had a Smosh had or Smosh. That time where they overtook Ray William was not that long. Ray William was on top for like 3 years.
Wow.
but
Yeah,
now it's like
true.
it's PewDiePie with no chance of anyone like overtaking him.
I am really curious to see how many of his subscribers are bots, honestly.
Oh, probably a huge ratio.
Yeah, because it was probably just people being like, yeah, I want him to beat T-Series, but like I look at his videos sometimes. I stopped watching him a while ago, but he'll like show up on my homepage and I look at like the views on his videos and it'll be like 8 or 9 million after like 3 days. And it's just like if you have 100 million subscribers and 9% of them are watching your stuff, how many of them are actually real?
I feel like a lot of his subscribers are just like dead subs too.
A lot of people who aren't on YouTube anymore.
Right.
Don't they clear that out after a while? Like if you don't log on for a certain amount of time, I'm pretty sure they clear who you subscribe to.
I didn't know that.
I I know they've done it before, but I don't know when the last time they've done it. And also, if you still were active on the account, they wouldn't count you as a dead sub.
Yeah, but they just yeah, true.
Like his channel might be someone where like, because I'm sure we all have channels like that where we watched them a long time ago and they just haven't shown up in our sub boxes in like 5 years.
No, I clean every once in a while.
I never clean.
Dude, I'm subscribed to like 100 channels, and even then, and I like clean like every 2 weeks or so.
I'm checking my subscriptions right now because I want. I This account is very old.
Yeah, if I go to my old inactive YouTube account, I'm subscribed to like so many random people that I'm like, why did I ever subscribe? Because I never watched one video from this person.
Like, I'm looking here, binging with Babish. I'm subscribed to. I haven't seen a video from him in like 5 years.
Really?
Like that I've actively sought out and like clicked on.
He
Like I've
wasn't
seen
even
them
that popular
recommended.
5 years ago.
Been a long time ago because I haven't. He's definitely got to be one of my earliest subscriptions.
That's surprising to me because he didn't really hit like super like famous until recently.
Top tens. I don't even what.
But yeah, that was an interesting time in YouTube, especially with
Definitely.
Smosh and all that shit.
Were you guys big Smosh fans?
Yes.
Oh my god, yes.
Happy Cow is like my favorite video of all time.
I used to watch all like their second channel stuff too, like their mail time videos and all that shit.
When they made Smosh Gaming is when I tapped out.
See, I even stuck around for that. I fucking hated Lasercorn. I despised that man with a burning passion, but I still stuck
Who
around.
is Lasercorn?
He was like the like I don't know how to describe him other than he looked like the ultimate middle child. And like he was just really gross looking and he was really loud and annoying. I mean they all were, but he was above the cut of the rest.
Also,
So-
if you like look at Smosh's older stuff, like I don't even know what's going on. Like, how did like 12-year-old me like this stuff? I don't know.
No, I rewatched some stuff and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of good, honestly. Like I remember in like during the school year, me and one of my friends got like really fucked up and we watched a bunch of old Smosh videos and they were great. Like Happy Cow, like you were saying, Happy Cow was great. The one about the molester moon, that one was great. Like they honestly got some good ones. Their newer shit is dog ass, but
I thought they
I like
stopped
their old
making
stuff.
videos.
I think they still make it.
So here's the thing: is I hadn't seen a Smosh video in like a long time, over 5 years, and my roommate was just like watching Smosh, like their current videos, and I was like, what the fuck is that? He's like, oh, it's Smosh. And I was like, that is what the Smosh channel is now.
Yeah.
It's so first of all, it's not the only out of the two of them. It's only Ian now,
Yeah, Anthony has his own YouTube channel and it's really bad.
but there's like 7 of them now. Like it's a 7-person crew somewhere around there, and it's kind of like the one I saw is it's this thing where they like do a bunch of weird shit and try to like make each other laugh, if that makes sense.
I've seen one of those. I don't, that's not their main stuff, but I've seen one of those because a YouTuber that I liked was on it and I watched it and it made me sad.
Was it Gus Johnson?
Yeah. And like the rest of them were just so unfunny aside from him. And even him, like the format isn't good for comedy, so it's still a little rough.
25 million subscribers. Wow.
Yeah.
That's way more
I
than
also don't
thought.
I also don't understand how they've gotten so much mileage out of that style of video.
Yeah, it's because you think they would have just done everything by now.
I thought people would have just gotten sick of it.
Well, I mean, they have. That's another channel where I'd like to see how many of those are bots or dead.
They've got to have a ton of dead channels.
Yeah, just like a bunch of. I mean, I'm probably still subscribed to them on my old email if they haven't cleaned that yet.
All right, are we ready for the the experimental segment?
Yeah, I'm ready to get
Hell
freaky.
yeah.
All right. So, since there's no news going on anymore, I came up with this thing. If it works, I think it's going to be every episode. It'll probably be at the end. I've decided to call it Max's history lesson.
Ooh.
Mm.
You know,
what
history
it's
was once news, so it works.
it's basically just going to be where I come in with a topic that I did some research on that I feel like people would find interesting, basically. And I have a page of notes here. I'm gonna run it down, and then of course it's open for comments and questions from my co-hosts.
All right, let's hear him.
So this is something that I feel like a lot of people probably have like a vague knowledge, especially from our generation, a vague knowledge of, but not they don't know the whole story. So the subject of today's lesson is New Coke. Do you guys know what that is?
Wasn't that
I've
a
heard of it, I
marketing
think.
strategy?
Dan, have you ever heard of New Coke?
I think I've heard of it before, but I don't remember exactly what it is. I think it's just like, isn't it Coke with slightly different ingredients?
Okay, so
I don't
here's the
think they were any
story.
different.
Here's the story. Travel back in time to the early 80s.
Mhm.
Pepsi is kind of beating Coke.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's weird to imagine now, but Pepsi, they had better marketing. They were newer. A lot of taste tests were showing that people liked Pepsi over Coke, and Pepsi's market share was growing, taking market share away from Coke, and a lot of the reason Coke was still on top at that time was because of legacy contracts that they had with restaurants and vending machines. So it was totally looking like Pepsi was going to overtake Coke at some point.
Which is wild to think about.
New Coke. Coke decided to make a new recipe for the drink to try to beat Pepsi. And because the advantage that Pepsi had over Coke taste-wise is that it's sweeter, they made New Coke sweeter than Pepsi and sweeter than regular Coke. So they they did taste tests, and people preferred New Coke to either Coke or Pepsi.
Ooh.
So what Coke did was in 1985, they took regular Coke off the market and replaced it with New Coke. By and large, actually, people were fine with it. It's remembered as kind of a flop because it's kind of become a joke now where like people will use that to describe like a bad sequel. They'll call it New Coke. I've heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more successful than people remember. Most people were totally fine with the swap. It was just there was a very, very, very vocal minority who were absolutely incensed that they would dare to replace Coke. And they actually had a hint that this would happen because during the taste tests, most people preferred New Coke, but there was a small minority who did not just prefer regular Coke, and they didn't even say in the test that they were going to be replacing regular Coke altogether. They just said, oh, would you want this new flavor of Coke? There was a small minority of people who were fucking pissed at the study, and they were so mad that they were so mad that they tried to like convince other people to also say that they would not drink it. This basically is exactly how it played out in life, where there were a small amount of people who were fucking like the amount of rage over it was completely insane. There were invariably a lot of people who never tried New Coke who just kind of went along with those vocal people who were mad and were like, oh yeah, how fucking dare they take away regular Coke like that. So basically, Coke caved to the pressure and brought classic Coke back. The thing about this is, when they brought the regular Coke back, it became so popular again. They called it Coca Cola Classic, and it became really popular and pretty much got them to where they are now, where they are clearly the number one soft drink.
I think I see where you're going with this.
No, because I've got more.
All right.
Don't cut him off, Dan.
Yeah.
So the next thing that I think is kind of interesting to bring up, New Coke was around longer than I thought before I researched this. I thought New Coke was like around for like a summer, and then they brought regular Coke back. But New Coke was still around until it got discontinued in 2002.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
in 1992, they actually tried to rebrand its name to Coke 2. So it was around with Coca Cola Classic for a long time, actually. And that means that the taste, the memory of the taste of New Coke is not actually this exclusive, not exclusive, but it's not this very hard to find thing. There are taste tests done since we'll call it the replacement era. There have been taste tests done. There were taste tests done very recently because they brought New Coke back as a promotion with Stranger Things. Because I don't watch the show, but I guess it was featured in like season 3 or whatever. So there are other taste tests that have been done since. And people still, by and large, prefer New Coke in those tests. And there was even a test where it was a very high-profile critic of New Coke. They gave him a blind taste test, and he picked New Coke as his favorite. There are also instances of people having the blind taste test, saying they like, or basically the result being that they like New Coke more, and then getting pissed at the study once they find out that they're like, oh, you're trying to trick me. This is bullshit. I fucking hate you. Now here's where it gets. Also, I feel like I should mention this. There's a recent. It was with the Stranger Things thing. There was a recent magazine article where they had a staff of I can't remember what magazine it was, but they all tasted New Coke. There was one person there who was like, "This is just as bad as I remember," but everybody else there was like, "Yeah, it's sweeter, smoother, better Coke." And there was actually one of the people there, I don't know if he knew the recipe beforehand, but he actually nailed on the dot exactly what New Coke is. He said it tastes like Diet Coke if they used actual corn syrup instead of the whatever the fuck sweeteners they use in it. Because a lot of people don't know that Diet Coke is actually a completely different recipe than regular Coke. Yes, it has different sweetener, but it's built differently. It's not the same recipe. Here's the other thing, though. There are a lot of people who say that those taste tests are not accurate and that you can't totally trust them. And for me, doing the beverage lovers thing, I see where they're coming from. They say that in small doses, it's really hard to tell which one you actually like more versus when you kind of have the whole drink in front of you and you're kind of drinking it over a longer period of time.
Yeah, I definitely feel that.
I've experienced that with beverage lovers. And the thing that makes me...
tea?
Yeah, the thing that makes me kind of believe this a little more is that in those same taste tests where Pepsi was beating Coke and New Coke was beating both of them, Diet Coke was actually beating regular Coke.
Huh.
And now we get to the conspiracy theory part of this, where there are a couple theories one of them is very common. It's just pretty much people reverse engineering the whole thing, where they say New Coke was a ploy all along. It was just a way to play to people's nostalgia and make them miss the regular Coke. I don't necessarily believe that one. I don't believe that one, but it's interesting how prevalent that is. And you, Jonah, even before I said any of this, that was all you knew about it.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then there's also a theory that I found on Reddit, that the reason they did this is to disguise the fact that they were changing the Coke recipe in the original Coke. Now, from what I can find, this theory originates from the 80s. People had this theory that they took away Coke and then brought it back so that they could use high fructose corn syrup instead of whatever sugar they used beforehand. That's actually completely false because they had already started using high fructose corn syrup before they took it away. But the reason that started is because there were people who, when they brought Coca Cola Classic back, claimed that it tasted differently. And that was kind of their explanation for it. But I think that lends more credence to the nostalgia thing, where they remembered it differently because it was taken away. So there are my notes on New Coke. Thoughts?
I don't agree with either of the conspiracy theories, but I think that the first one was just like an unintentional side effect. Like, I don't think that might not have been what they were going for, but I can see why you would think that, because why take away original Coke and not just have them both together on the market?
There's an explanation for that I forgot to mention. Coca-Cola themselves says that the reason they didn't want to do that is because between Coke, Diet Coke, and Coke 2, they would have 3 different drinks splitting the sales between each one, meaning that even though their bottom line wouldn't necessarily be hurt by that as a company, that it would allow Pepsi, who was only doing one basic Pepsi drink at the time, to be able to have the spot of number 1 soft drink. And they did not want that.
Yeah, it could be number 1 brand, sense. But their number 1 drink, like, altogether.
Right.
Yeah, when you walk to the store, you're not buying all 3 different kinds of Coke.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably going to buy one.
Well, the thing is, I think that would cover all their bases if they did all 3, because they have the less sweet, they have, like, normal Coke, and then they have the sweet. Like, they need to cover all those bases, because, like you said, with New Coke, a lot of people really liked it, but there was that very vocal minority, and if they just kept regular Coke, that would have totally pleased them, and they would have had the entire market all to themselves, not as one drink, but as one brand.
Dan, what are your thoughts?
I'd just like to add that I have to assume that the new Coke was more unhealthy than the regular Coke, with adding more like corn syrup. I don't think this would fly at all in today's society.
You think?
Why?
Because we are way more health conscious nowadays than we were in the 80s.
Not with shit like soda, though.
You don't think so?
No,
people are bad with soda still.
Yeah, like soda is like the one place where people kind of don't give a shit. Like even just like drinks in general, like Hawaiian Punch and like High C and shit like that. Like it's so super sugary, but people give it to their kids because they don't think about it as intensely as they do food. So I don't think it would really matter.
I guess it's just me then. I always thought that like things like fast food and sugary soft drinks, like there was less limitations back then, like especially with the FDA.
Fast food definitely, and maybe I'll cover that next week because Yeah, I could do something interesting with that. But what would you say is your guys' main takeaway from all this?
Um,
Um,
I
don't
guess
be
they kind of. Oh, you go.
I
Because
guess
okay, go.
when you have something like Coca Cola that's been around for like what, over 100 years now,
Yeah, well over. It's almost
don't
150.
if you're doing something bold like that, at least make sure that everyone's cool with it, and don't just like yank it from under all your customers' feet. Like obviously you did like a focus, it was tested, but it's clearly seen as like a failed marketing exploit, and I don't know. I just feel like you need to stick with what made you successful and not try to
So
change it up too much.
so what would you say is the story of New Coke? If you were writing a New Coke book, what would be your ending paragraph with the moral at the end?
Moral of the story: don't take away people's Coke. I guess.
All
I
right,
mean,
what about you, Jonah?
I think mine is that even though something might be new and better and more well liked, if you take away that option to like retreat back into the safe, and like the nostalgic people are going to be very, very upset. And it's that vocal minority that really fucks with you, and it's them who created the reputation of Coke 2 or New Coke or whatever to be this essentially joke, even though it was by and large successful in being a better drink.
Here's my honestly, I'm a believer. I've never tasted New Coke before. I'd love to just to see. But honestly, and it made me believe it even more after reviewing beverages myself. I'm a believer that I think that small sample size test is flawed. And B, I think that people probably had people weren't probably as attached to it. The main people were probably like, "Oh, this is like new Coke, like yeah, sure, whatever."
It's still Coke, it's just new.
Because again, Coke losing to Pepsi in all those tastes makes no goddamn sense. Because we have both options readily available now, and it's a small minority of people who prefer Pepsi. Small minority. So I'm a believer that Coke actually is better than Pepsi or more widely liked than Pepsi and New Coke. It's the favorite soft drink amongst most people. And I think that a lot of the reason that Pepsi kind of was rising is actually because they were just kind of gobbling up the people who preferred the sweeter drink. And it was just people didn't realize that the growth was going to stop. But that's what makes this such an interesting story is we all heard the same story and had three different takeaways.
Yeah.
I also think that there was a little bit of like a novelty to Pepsi, like that because it was different than
Totally.
Coca-Cola. People
Yeah.
wanted
I'm
to
with
choose
you.
it.
Yeah, because that's the other thing is in all these taste tests, except for the blind ones where New Coke was already kind of panned and Coke Classic was already brought back. Other than those, the ones that Coke themselves did in the lab, I don't think they were blind. I think they were specifically like, here's regular Coke and here's Pepsi and here's our newest flavor.
That's stupid. That's like the worst way to test something.
And
Gives
they
people so
also
much bias.
they also never asked people. They never had a question on the questionnaire. Would you be upset if we replaced Coke Classic with this? They never asked that.
Because
Yeah,
they
I
knew
don't
the
get.
answer was
I
going to
still
be
don't
yes.
understand why they did that. Like that makes no sense to me. Like it
'Cause
does in like a little bit of theory, but still.
They were just kind of hoping that people wouldn't like care.
I think it was an ego thing. I think they didn't want Pepsi to be able to say they were number one.
Yeah, it's especially these like really big corporations. It really is just a pissing match.
Yeah.
Like money is trivial. It's about being on top, being the king.
Being the household name that is Coca Cola.
You can have all these corporations have money, but only one of them can have a title, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And isn't it funny too that it seems like nowadays more restaurants have deals with Pepsi than Coke?
Taco Bell comes to mind.
Yeah, have you noticed that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't really understand that. I mean, I'm assuming they're just charging less. And
but
it's
the ones
cheaper,
that do
but
have a deal with Coke have those fancy machines.
And the ones that do have a deal with Coke, that's a huge plus to me.
It is, definitely. Those machines are great.
So yeah, that's if you have thoughts in the comments, I would love to hear them. And I think that segment went pretty well. So I'm gonna try to cook something up for next week as well.
yeah, maybe something fast food related, like you said. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an interesting direction you can go with that. Yeah, so anyway, you guys have any last comments before we wrap up?
Yeah, stay inside if you're sick. But if you can, go outside and get some fresh air.
Uh, don't go and protest the stay-at-home orders, idiot. You're gonna kill people. Or just like
Seconded.
you'll kill yourself that way, which is like, yeah, I guess a positive, but still.
You'll kill yourself and old people.
Yeah, you might take some decent people out in the crossfire, so that'd be less unfortunate.
All right. Agree with all that. See you in the next episode later.
Bye.
Dan, our outro.
Bye.
No songs.
No.